Hello and welcome. I am your host Ramesh Ramachandran and this is India Calling, a brand new weekly show on all things India and G20. A very warm welcome to viewers joining us from India and around the world. Now over the next 1 hour, we'll get you all the news related to India's presidency of the G20, the meetings held this week in Mumbai and Bengaluru, and a flavor, a slice of the best of Indian culture. Now, India, as you may know, is the G20 chair. It succeeded Indonesia as the G20 president on 1st December. Now, over the course of the next year, more than 200 G20 meetings will be held in nearly 60 locations spread across the length and breadth of this vast and beautiful country called India, all leading up to the next G20 summit to be held in New Delhi on 9th and 10th September. But first things first, before I proceed any further, let me quickly recap India's G20 journey so far. Now, it begins on 4th December from Udaipur in the northwestern Indian state of Rajasthan. It's a beautiful city. You have to visit Udaipur. It's a must-see, must-do destination for anyone visiting India. From Udaipur, India's G20 journey took us in the week gone by to Mumbai and Bengaluru. Now, Mumbai hosted the first development working group meeting from 13th to 16th December, and Bengaluru was the venue of the first Finance and Central Bank Deputies meeting from 13th to 15th December. And Bengaluru also hosted the first Framework Working Group meeting on 16th and 17th of December. Right, now that you have a fair idea of the story so far, let me dive straight into our next segment, which will give you a roundup of all the week's G20 activities. As I said before, Mumbai and Bengaluru hosted the G20 meetings this week. Let's start with Mumbai. Take a look at this report filed by my colleague Amritpal Singh.
As 2 days of deliberations concluded at the first development working group meeting, the consensus that emerged at the Mumbai meeting was that decisive, meaningful and collective action would be required to accelerate progress on sustainable development goals.
Main crux: how can India use its presidency to fast track attainment of sustainable development goals? But we are very, very conscious of the fact that this is a recovery period. So we have picked certain dimensions. We have picked some very relevant dimensions which we think can really accelerate this process.
The delegates committed to put their collective weight behind the global life or lifestyle for environment movement that provides philosophical underpinning for collective actions under the theme of G20 India, One Earth, One Family, One Future.
For sustainable development goals is so important, and the India presidency, rightly so, is putting that at the top of their priorities, and G20 I think is a perfect opportunity to discuss these issues with more depth.
Information usually it could be delivered in different forms, in digital as well as on paper. So it's important not just to have data, but it should be objective, and there should be some standards for this. And I believe that in our country we could solve this problem, and we are ready to share our experience with other countries as well.
The just green transition that India plans to pursue during its G20 presidency emphasizes on circular economy, ecosystem conservation and creating green jobs to enhance social and economic opportunities while contributing to human well-being and social justice.
India has done tremendously well is in the area of digitization. how have we deployed digital technology for the benefit of the people of India. So if 1.4 billion people can benefit through digitization, maybe India has solutions that we can offer to the rest of the world. The way we have used Aadhaar, the way we have taken Aadhaar and tied it up with the mobile phone, the jam triumvirate. So it is called Jandhan, Aadhaar and mobile. How have we used these three elements to boost financial inclusion? So all of these are very good examples of how we have used digitization and data to bring in developmental benefits to the people of the country.
The development impact of food, fuel and fertilizer crisis and effective use of data for development and women-led development were the other issues that were deliberated at length at the meeting. From effective use of data for development to bridging the global digital divide was the key focus of the Development Working Group's Mumbai meeting. The idea is to ensure that no one is left behind as this grouping commits to give a renewed push to sustainable development. With cameraman YK Loknath, this is Amrit Pal Singh for DD India in Mumbai.
And now to all the action from Bengaluru. Here's a report by my colleague Ajay Mishra.
The Framework Working Group under G20 Finance Track discussed food and energy price challenges and its impact on the global economy in general and on the low-income countries in particular. The World Bank made a presentation on global commodity and energy prices. The report says that after surging by an expected 60% in 2022, energy prices are projected to decline 11% in 2023 and a further 12% next year in 2024. However, prices will remain more than 50% above their 5-year average through 2024. Persistently high energy prices will continue to have inflationary impact, particularly on transport and electricity costs. Inflationary pressures will be further exacerbated in countries with sizable currency depreciation against the US dollar. Brent crude oil prices are forecast to average at $92 per barrel in 2023, down from a projected $100 per barrel in 2022, before easing to $80 per barrel in 2024. A sharper than expected slowdown in global growth and continued COVID restrictions in China are the key downside risks to oil consumption. Experts are of the view that innovations coming out of India might be useful in solving the global challenges. Speaking exclusively with DD India, the Regional Economic Advisor for Asian Development Bank referred to the recent study on innovation where Bengaluru emerged as the top destination.
Innovation that firms are carrying out, these are innovations that are catering to certain market demands. And we know that a lot of the challenges we are facing these days, there is a demand for this outside in whether it's in domestically, externally. So for example, take this issue of energy efficiency and new sources of energy. There is a vibrant market now globally, and firms will respond.
The working group also discussed food production value chain, efficiency of distribution network and innovative irrigation method to ease global food and energy prices. Rising labor costs due to COVID-induced lockdown also found space during the deliberations.
Big responsibilities, bigger ambitions. The big focus of the India G20 presidency is to accelerate new ideas and find new solutions to the global challenges. The 8 working groups under the finance track creates the backbone to create the problem, to solve the problems of Sherpa track. The framework working group has completed its deliberations successfully here in Bangalore and is expected to submit its report as soon as possible to the finance track deputies. With camera person Kuldeep Sharma, Ajay Mishra, DD India, Bangalore.
Mumbai is known as the maximum city, the city of dreams. The city that never stops is the economic capital of India as well. Now, the public transport system of Mumbai keeps the city going. The Brihan Mumbai Electric Supply and Transport Undertaking popularly known as BEST or BEST buses, have over the years turned into an environment-friendly option for commuters. Based on the motorized double-decker buses of London, the BEST buses are popular with tourists and locals alike, especially those looking for a city tour. My colleague Shyama Mishra reports.
Mumbai has long been India's industrial and economical centre, and we know for the fact that Mumbai was all the 7 islands that got together, and for having the 7 islands coming together, you also have to have something for transportation. Local trains and the red buses remain the arteries of Mumbai, which keeps the city going. We are in one of the BST red buses, which is, you can see, the roof is open, and this is specially devoted for all the tourists who come to Mumbai and they want to see the scenic beauty of Mumbai. We have Manoj Varade, he is the PRO of the BEST. Tell us a little about the history of BST buses.
Since 1874, that is since Britishers' time, BST is existing and providing services, transport services mainly to Mumbai public. As per the demand of people from Mumbai city, the speed of horse-driven tram was quite less. So we have introduced electric-driven tram. So through electric supply, we have started electric-driven trams. Thereafter still, people were demanding that still the speed is quite less. So we have introduced single-deck buses in 1926.
Mumbai is celebrating G20 presidency with hosting the development working group meetings here. It's an iconic thing, just like our double-decker buses, red buses in Mumbai. How do you see this opportunity for the whole of Mumbai?
See, the BST is not only beloved by the Mumbai people, but it is appreciated across the city. We are the first in many things like National Common Mobility Card. We are the first transport organization in the city, in the country, not only in the city, to introduce such a card. So that is you can use in trains, metro trains, local trains.
Foreign delegates also keep coming, and they also, they love traveling in the open deck buses. Also now the G20, the presidency is happening. What are the foreigners or people from other countries are saying about this?
Recently the delegates from corporations of South African cities, then European cities have visited to BEST, and they have visited to study that how we are making the transport management across the city and within the Mumbai city, which is so much crowded. Across the the two-wheelers are there, four-wheelers are there. So then also we are managing our transport so well. So it is very amazing.
So like sir mentioned that people from other countries also come and study the transportation working system of BST, and like we mentioned earlier also that you need a strong transportation system in a city like Mumbai, and BST and local trains in Mumbai, they supply impeccable services, and we also know that they are the arteries and they keep the city running. With camera person Gaurav Kagra, this is Shyama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
Now, Mumbai is also famous for its dabbawalas. The dabbawalas have earned praise from Prince Charles of the UK, among others. In fact, the dabbawalas were invited to the wedding of Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles in the year 2005. The dabbawalas are a part of an organized lunchbox delivery system. They deliver hot lunches from home to office. Lunch boxes are picked up in the morning, delivered using bicycles and trains, and returned in the afternoon. Their efficient operations earned them the 6 Sigma certification. Shyama Mishra spoke to the dabbawalas and asked them about their future plans as they prepare to go digital.
The world famous dabbawalas are a unique and essential part of Mumbai. The city is hosting the G20 Development Working Group meetings, and we are showing you the unique parts and the unique elements of Maharashtra, Mumbai. Behind me you can see all these are the dabbawalas, and all these are the men who actually do the job, and these are the boxes, the lunch boxes. Dabbawala essentially means dabba, tiffin, and wala is the transporter. So literally your lunch gets delivered from, it gets picked up from your house and gets delivered to your working place. Right now, if you see them, they are relaxed because they've got the empty tiffin boxes from the offices, and that is another essential part that they do. They just don't deliver the food, the warm food to your table, but they also collect the empty tiffin boxes. We have Ulhas Muke, he is the president of Mumbai Dabbawala Association. Sir, how many people are there in the association and आप लोगों का working किस तरीके से होता है? जो 6 Sigma certification है आप लोगों का, आप लोग mistake बिल्कुल नहीं करते हैं?
मुंबई डब्बावाला मुंबई में कम से कम 133 साल से ऊपर हो गए। जो कस्टमर का डब्बा उनका घर का खाना उनको देते इतने साल से आ रहा है, और सुबह कम से कम 6 बजे से लेकर शाम 6 बजे तक उनका पूर्ण वर्किंग, मतलब घर से निकलते टाइम वापस घर से जाने तक सुबह 6 से 6 बजे तक काम रहता है।
Different organizations coming together. So how's that coordination between each, Dabbawala association or Dabbawala, company that they come together, because everyone is seen as one Dabbawala.
Right. See, before the COVID, as per our president said, we have more than 5,000 employees, but now its number goes down up to 1,500. Sorry. So already in COVID's lockdown, we already talked with the Pune MIDCs, and most of the government, most of the people they are selling vegetables. They are working as a cab driver. So we move them as we are providing employment to them. But now we are going to be diversify, because since 130 years we only deliver the lunch boxes from your home to the office. But now we are coming into the centralized kitchen and all the new concept we are going to regenerate in Mumbai.
Lastly, Mumbai is hosting G20, and it is a very proud moment for all the Mumbaikars, for all the Indians, that such a big event is happening in Mumbai. You all are unique to Mumbai. How proud that makes you feel?
So it's like it's very proud moment for us also, because we are the unique, and the culture of Mumbai, we can say the unique ideas and unique systems are in Mumbai. So these foreign delegates, this G20 delegate, they can see the beauty of Mumbai. So it's really a very proud moment for us also.
All right. It's a very proud moment for the Dabbawalas that the G20 meetings are happening in Mumbai. The first development working group meeting happened in Mumbai, and we are also all proud as Indians that we have this Dabbawala association with us, because they carry your tiffin from your home, which is hot and tasty, and because of the fact that after COVID, people prefer home cooked food over the outside food, and that is delivered on your table. With camera person Gaurav Kagada, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
All right, shifting focus away from Mumbai to Bengaluru now, where my colleague Aisha Khanam spoke to India's Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Seth about his memories of the city and how Bengaluru has grown into an innovation hub. Take a listen to this exclusive conversation.
Under India's prestigious G20, Bangalore has just witnessed the first Finance and Central Bank Deputy Secretary meet, and this is just concluded in Bangalore. A very interesting aspect about Bangalore, a cosmopolitan city, a vibrant city, and a city which is also known as India's Silicon Valley. To talk more about Bangalore and the vibrancy of Bangalore city, I have with me Mr. Ajay Seth, who is the Economic Affairs Secretary, Government of India. If you were to look at the Bangalore city in a metro ride, what is the nostalgia that you discuss with your friends when you are sitting in Delhi?
The largest part of my life I have spent in Bangalore.
Yeah.
So I very much associate with it. It's a great city.
Yes.
City full of innovation.
Yes.
City where the people appreciate each other's concern, and extremely good information technology, IT industry,
yes,
biotechnology industry is a very strong economic engine for the country as a whole.
That's right.
And in several areas. It is giving competition to any other technology hub in the entire world.
What's the nostalgic memory that you have about Bangalore? If you're sitting with your friends in Delhi and if you're having a chat with them, what is it that comes to your mind about Bangalore?
Being there, I miss my friends, and I miss the food here.
And how do you see Bangalore growing now as a Silicon Valley of India? And you are in a very important position at the center. So how do you look? Bangalore needs to be given more impetus and given more motivation for the infrastructure as such, as the city is growing.
See, I mentioned a few minutes back the cities of tomorrow, which are inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. Now, that is a challenge which Bangalore has, other cities in India have, and other cities in several of the developed economies have. and even the cities in the developed world also have.
Right.
So cities were not meant for less energy intensive. So this is a challenge which urbanization brings to us, but the jobs are where the economic activities are there.
Right.
So collectively, that is the reason that why this priority has been chosen for G20. And there are models around the world in our own country. And like very recently, I was having a discussion with people who have worked in Indore. They have worked out extremely well how they manage their waste management.
Right.
How they have managed the public transport. So a bus-based public transport is not just about big city, about metros.
Absolutely.
Even on a bus system, how they have done it well. So solutions have to be found which is tailored for each city, and the work is going on. And the spirit of Bengaluru is also working in that direction.
Right.
So there's always the demands on the resources of the cities are a lot more than what the city can provide. But yes, I am hopeful, and being part of the city for the last more than 3 decades, there are challenges, but there are huge gains as well.
Right. Bangalore as an educational hub is also, gains very importance here. So how have you seen, Bangalore city with educational institutions and the youth power, youth energy, coming from Bangalore, the startups, the ISRO space hub we have here. So how have you viewed these?
If I can sum up, there is nothing to beat Namma Bengaluru.
That was Mr. Ajay said. And in his own inimitable style in Kannada, he said, Namma Bangalore, there is nothing which can be compared to Bangalore. And he knows that Bangalore is a growing cosmopolitan city. And with events like G20, Bangalore once again gains an important position on the global map. With cameraman Muni Krishna, Aisha Khanam, DD India, Bangalore.
All right, time now for our next segment called Explainer, in which we break things down for you so that you stay better informed. It's the first time we are meeting on this show, so I thought why not give you, the viewer, an overview of the G20. It can be a dry subject for some, others may not know enough about the G20, so here you are. First up, what is G20? G20 is an intergovernmental forum. There are 20 members, 19 countries plus EU. Those 19 countries are Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, South Korea, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, the UK and the US. Now the objective is to address global economic issues, and the G20 comprises the world's largest economies. In fact, 85% of the world GDP is in the G20, 75% of the world trade as well, 2/3 of the global population, and 60% of the world's land area. It was founded in 1999 after the Asian financial crisis elevated to Leaders Summit after 2007 financial crisis. And moving on to how does the G20 work now? The G20 presidency, it steers the agenda and hosts the summit, and India holds the G20 presidency, and there are no permanent secretariat of the G20 as such. Now talking about the G20 presidencies, what it entails, the presidency is supported by a troika, previous, current and incoming presidents. Let's take a look at some more details here. There we go. It steers agenda and hosts the summit. India holds the G20 presidency as well. But the key question is that there is no G20 permanent secretariat as such for the G20. And like I mentioned before, the presidency is supported by a troika. The troika comprises the previous, current and incoming presidents. And the troika today comprises India, Indonesia and Brazil. Next up, we'll also try to get you some more information about the G20 logo, for instance. The G20 logo is inspired by the colors of India's national flag. It juxtaposes the earth with the lotus, India's national flower as well. And the theme, talking about the theme now, theme is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a Sanskrit phrase which means the world is one family. And the theme actually spotlights Prime Minister Modi's slogan of life or lifestyle for environment. And India is celebrating the anniversary of its independence between now and the 100th anniversary come 2047 as well. Last but not the least, about the G20 summits. The summit is held annually under a rotating presidency. 17 summits have been held so far. The first summit was held in the US in 2008, and India is to host the 18th summit in September 2023. Right, talking about the theme of India's G20 presidency, we spoke to Indian spiritual guru Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev. Take a listen to his message about the deeper meaning of the theme Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future.
G20 presidency could not have come at a better time for India than now, which is the Amrit Mahotsav or Amrit Kal for us, or 75 years of India's independence. It's very significant that India has taken the presidency of G20 nations for the coming year, the 23rd year of 21st century. In many ways, when the world is at crossroads, just after pandemic, conflicts, major conflicts going on in the world, possibilities of nuclear conflagration being discussed in the world, this is the best time for India to take the presidency of G20 nations.
All right, time for a very short break, but before I have a quiz question for you. The question is, when was the G20 established? Is it A, 1995, B, 1999, C, 1985, or D, 2000? I'll give you a clue. I spoke about it just a short while ago on the show. Jog your memory. The correct answer when we come back. Stay tuned to India Calling. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching India Calling on DD India, your one-stop destination for all things India and G20. Our key element of India's G20 presidency will be taking the G20 closer to the people and making it a truly people's G20. So India has planned activities requiring public participation throughout the next year. All right, remember the G20 quiz? Before we went into the break, I asked you, when was G20 established? Is it A, 1995, B, 1999, C, 1985, or D, 2000? The correct answer is B, 1999. The G20 is 23 years old. It was set up in the year 1999. Right, let me bring in my guest on the show. Joining me in the studio is Ambassador Lakshmi Puri. She's a former Indian ambassador to Hungary. She was also a UN Assistant Secretary General and UN Women's Deputy Executive Director. Ambassador Puri, welcome to this particular show.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here.
Good to see you, Ambassador Puri. Let me start by asking you, what is special about the G20 presidency of India, and what can we look forward to over the next several months?
You know, when I was driving here, I saw some slogans, and I thought I should begin with one of them, and that is Bharat ke haath baagdoor, Vishwa naye kal ki or. With the reins of the G20 in the hands of India, the world will move to a new direction and a new tomorrow. So that is what is so special about India, because you know there has never been this historic moment when India has mattered more to the world and the world has mattered more to India than under Prime Minister Modi, India. And that in itself means that for the major projects of humanity, which is sustainable development, climate action, environmental protection, elimination of poverty, for democracy and human rights and humanism, for the projects of humanitarian crisis response and disaster response, for the project of peace and security. In all of these areas, India matters more than ever before, and that is why it is in a very special position to steer this group, which, as you pointed out, is one of the most powerful, politically, economically, militarily, most powerful group in the world, and therefore in a position to transform, to take things forward, to arrive at a consensus and take decisions on behalf and for the world, including the global south. Now, what are the special, unique assets that India brings? First of all, it's the world's largest, oldest and most vibrant democracies, upholding the principles of humanity. It's a civilizational state with huge cultural influence, and you showed some of that. Then it is also the 5th largest economy, on its way to becoming the 3rd largest economy and the fastest growing one, the bright spot. People are talking about India century. So that is another very important aspect, particularly where G20 is concerned. And then India has also shown, in terms of the social justice project, how it has effectively taken the concept of Sarvodaya and Antodaya, which is very inherent in the SDGs forward. Also, the concept of its commitment to climate action has been demonstrated by Prime Minister Modi's and his Panchamrit resolve that he has indicated. So, I mean, all of that plus its multi-alignment.
True.
Where it can build bridges between countries that are ideologically different or separated and divided and at conflict, in conflict. Also, there is the aspect of how it has dealt with crisis, the once in a century crisis of COVID-19 pandemic, and at a time when the rest of the world was all looking out for itself, India was the only country that demonstrated global solidarity.
True.
Apart from, of course, showing the world how India overcame this pandemic and the consequences of that, and the great vaccine story. So there are so many, and that brings me to the other point, that India is a lighthouse in so many ways in terms of best practices, which can be then globalized, regionalized, and for the benefit of the world, benefit of the other G20 countries, but particularly for the global south.
Indeed.
And I think one has to remember that the solutions, the global solutions that India can provide, and some of them you referred to in your earlier messaging, there are so many global solutions that India has struggled to find and then perfected, which can be taken forward. And you referred to the digital transformation and the public infrastructure. So all of these make India ideally suited to take on this leadership role at a time of great conflict, concern, and I think there are many challenges right now, but India is best equipped to be that bridge builder as well as a transformer.
Indeed. Ambassador Puri, I'll come back to you momentarily, but also joining us are two foreign guests, Ambassador Ina Krishnamurthy of Indonesia and Ambassador Federico Salas of Mexico. Ambassador Krishnamurthy, Ambassador Salas, welcome to this special broadcast. Ambassador Krishnamurthy, if I can start with you, what's been Indonesia's experience as the past president of G20 been like over the last 1 year, and also in terms of the achievements, outcomes from the Bali summit in particular, which are consequential for the rest of the world as well?
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Welcome, Ambassador.
Truly honored to be here. And also I would like to congratulate India for its 1 year journey, adventure as presidency of G20. Indonesia also feel very honored that we have completed our presidency in November, and we are also very proud that we could achieve the agreement or consensus on the joint communique. It is truly an important milestone for Indonesia, as to you mentioned in the beginning of this program, that being a presidency of G20 puts a lot of weight to a country, especially emerging economies such as India and Indonesia. And for that, Indonesia feels honored, and also at the same time, when we started the journey of being presidency of for having this presidency in December, the dynamics of global, regional, politically, economically is quite different when we experience a turbulence and a challenge, a huge challenge with the war, and also Omicron variant. A lot of things happen throughout our presidency, but we maintain our priorities, which is the energy, the digital as well as the health. Because we believe that these three priorities are the priorities of the emerging economies, such as our countries. So if you're talking about holding the summit in November, that also had another level of challenge, because throughout our presidency, as we all know from public and open sources, that behind the scene of discussions are not an easy thing to do, because there are very lacking of trust between countries, especially the members as well as the invitees. So I think in that regard, Indonesia is blessed, and we feel honored and proud that we completed the presidency thus far.
Right. Ambassador Salas, coming to you now, Mexico hosted the G20 summit in 2012. What are your views or Mexico's views on India's quest for reformed multilateralism, especially of the G20, to make it consequential and action-oriented as well going forward?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you also for having me in this program. I think it's a very timely issue that we are discussing. One of the things that, of course, is on the table that India has brought to the table during this presidency, and as you mentioned just now, is the question of what do we do with the multilateral system that we have nowadays? It is obvious that there's all sorts of indications that a reform needs to be applied, that we need institutions that are more responsive to the needs and to the realities of the world as we are living it nowadays. I think the G20 in itself, without being an organization, without having a formal structure, etc., is a body that is well equipped to a large extent to deal with many of the challenges that we face today. I think it was very fortunate that the conclusion of the work that Indonesia did so well last year with a consensus document at the end of its presidency is something that India has a very solid ground to stand on, and to keep working on that to achieve an additional consensus on, as I said, on some of the many issues that we are facing today, be it the reform of the multilateral system, questions on climate change, financial stability, development issues. I mean, all of this, which are, of course, some of the items that are on the agenda of the G20 and that India is very keen to pursue during its presidency.
Indeed. Ambassador Puri, talking about India's insistence that G20 must not remain just a talk shop, India is also keen to offer solutions to crises confronting the world, like we saw in the case of the pandemic, for instance, where India started the vaccine Maitri program, giving vaccines to other countries around the world. We also saw India's initiative to have the CDRI and also the International Solar Alliance, for that matter, on climate change and clean energy as well. Ambassador Puri?
Well, this G20 is a major opportunity for India to take forward what it has itself, what Prime Minister has announced, actionable and deliverable outcomes forward, and which means that build on what has happened in Indonesia and before that in the various summits and the outcomes and the mechanisms that were launched by those summits, build on that, consolidate that, but also blaze a trail and leave an enduring legacy of its presidency. So I think that is the framework within which India is seeking to optimize, if not maximize, the opportunities that are presented. What are those opportunities? The opportunities are for making G20 the real locus of global governance on delivering global public goods.
Right.
So, and as distinct from a more elite and less inclusive G7. So that is one. The other opportunity is for, of course, speaking up, being an advocate, but also delivering something really substantive for the global South.
Indeed.
And then there is the other aspect which has to be kept in mind, which is that you have to look at how the key priority themes that India has highlighted, and these I would like to very quickly list.
Sure.
The first is transformative technology, transformational technology and digital public infrastructure. The second relates to life, it was referred to in your program, life, green development and climate finance. Then the third aspect is women-led development. Fourth is accelerating the implementation, achievement of SDGs,
right,
which are, by the way, off track. We are at the midpoint of the SDGs. Then also achieving accelerated and inclusive and resilient economic growth, which has been badly affected by the COVID pandemic and other the climate and cascading impacts of all of that, climate and conflict. And also then this whole issue of how we move, how we deal with multilateralism for the 21st century.
Indeed.
And also in that context as well, how do we deal with the 3 F's of the fuel, fertilizer and food crisis that so many countries, particularly in the South, are facing today. So there will be, as I see it as of now, there will be very strong push to have actionable outcomes.
Indeed.
And they may be in terms of norms and policies and guidelines. They may be in terms of campaigns, database and knowledge hubs. They may be in the form of mechanisms for implementation and mechanisms for financing. And financing is the key in all of this, what we are going to be delivering. And then it's also about driving for India and for the world a people's movement in support of these global public goods.
Indeed.
And the whole issue of on multilateralism, you asked a question to one of our guests. There has been in the G7 has been typically status quoist grouping in terms of multilateral reform. And reform in multilateralism, whether it is the UN and UN Security Council, making it more democratic, more participative and inclusive, more effective, and whether it is that or whether it is the Bretton Woods institutions, the IMF and World Bank, the quota reform and all of those issues. So we hope that the G20 will be an engine true engine for the transformation that we need in the 21st century.
I would have loved to continue, but I'm afraid that's all we have time for. I have to thank all my guests, Ambassador Lakshmi Puri, Ambassador Ina Krishnamurthy and Ambassador Federico Salas for making time for us here on India Calling. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Right, time now for our next segment on foreign media coverage. My colleague Antara Sinha tells you how foreign media is covering India and the G20. Take a look.
India has been making ripples and waves across the globe ever since it took over the G20 presidency. Now, if we look at the foreign coverage of India and the G20, we look at the first one that pops up is the Foreign Policy magazine, which has been published from the United States, which reads as India's G20 presidency is a golden opportunity. The article further reads as New Delhi has the chance to shape the global agenda and advocate for its vision of multilateralism. The article further features Prime Minister Modi's picture along with Joko Widodo, the Indonesian president. Now, second one, if we see the BBC covers it as G20. PM Narendra Modi pitches for harmony as India takes over presidency. It also features Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's picture along with Joko Widodo's picture, and further reads, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that the country will work to promote a universal sense of oneness while it leads the G20 nations. It also reads, he also called for member countries to make India's G20 presidency one of healing, harmony and hope. The theme of India's presidency is One Earth, One Family, One Future, inspired by the Sanskrit phrase Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Now we move on to the third one, which is from the Arab News, which is published from Saudi Arabia. It reads as India pledges inclusive, ambitious, action-oriented G20 as it assumes presidency. The article also features Indian Prime Minister Modi and Joko Widodo's picture of the moment when the G20 presidency was symbolically passed over to India. The article also reads, G20 leaders adopted a joint declaration despite divisions in the bloc over the war in Europe, with most members strongly condemning the Russian aggression against Ukraine. Now, Prime Minister Modi acknowledged the many challenges facing the world while pledging a presidency that would be inclusive, ambitious, decisive and action-oriented. Now we move on to the latest one, which is from Reuters. Now Reuters covers it as G20 wants to build policy consensus on crypto assets. The article further reads, the group of 20 countries are striving to build a policy consensus on crypto assets to inform better global regulation, as per India's Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Seth. So that's all we have from foreign media. Over to you.
The G20 meetings are garnering attention on social media too. My colleague Tripti Tripathi gets you all the social media buzz. Take a look.
As India assumes the presidency of the G20 grouping, there are a plethora of events which are being held across the country. Around 200 meetings in 32 different sectors at multiple locations will be held over the next 1 year in the country. This includes the lighting of 100 monuments including UNESCO World Heritage Sites with G20 logos, selfie competition encouraging people to take a picture with the monument in the background. And it's no wonder that the social media is buzzing with trends and activity. We try to decode what happened in the week as the whole world turned their focus on India. India's public broadcaster, Prasar Bharati, is leaving no stone unturned to make its presence felt across the country with the G20 Knowledge series, giving information about the various working groups which are part of the G20 decision-making process. The delegates arrived in Mumbai to attend its first meeting of the Development Working Group under India's G20 presidency, and they are mesmerized by the pictures, lighting shows and different events. The delegates who arrived joined local dancers in Mumbai to shake a leg, while some of them tried their hands and played dhol. This video went viral. During meeting breaks, G20 delegates explores India's rich, colorful art and crafts. The exhibition outside the meeting venue displayed traditional Indian weaves, handicrafts, paintings, sweets and ornaments. The iconic Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai, which has been a historical symbol of Indian entrepreneurship, was also lit with a G20 logo to welcome delegates. If Mumbai rolled out the red carpet, how can Bengaluru stay behind? The first Finance and Central Bank deputies meeting took place in Bengaluru, and they gave a glimpse of the culture troves from Karnataka, its legacy in space, science and path-breaking work in biotech field. Welcoming the delegates to India's Silicon Valley, In between all that, the delegates also replenished the world-famous filter coffee in between discussing about finance with a touch of soulful music and dance performance showcasing the color of Karnataka. The Queen of Bhutan, Jetsun Pema, also commend and support the launch of Mission Life by PM Modi. In other trends, External Affairs Minister exchanged views with UN Secretary General on UNSC reform, Ukraine conflict and cooperation of work under India's G20 presidency. Well, that's all in this segment. I, Triti Tripathi, take your leave, but do follow our social media handles for all the G20 updates. See you next week.
And in closing, I want to talk to you about what's in store for the G20 next week. On 20th December, the first Joint Finance and Health Task Force meeting will be held. It will be held in virtual mode. The Joint Finance and Health Task Force is one of 8 working groups under the finance track of G20. And with that, it's a wrap on India Calling. It's a wrap on India Calling, but news continues here on DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. We leave you with images from this week's G20 meetings in Mumbai and Bengaluru. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.